Singularity by William Sleator, 20. When I stepped outside, the world had not looked as I remembered it from 6 months and 9 months ago. The light was different. It was not moonlight. I walked slowly to the center of the meadow, filtering carefully, moderating the input so that my senses would not confuse me. I looked up. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, lay the other universe, the singularity and the approaching one, and they were also 20 feet behind me in the playhouse. The stars were fading. I began to be aware of the wind in the leaves, the cold, stony babble of the river, the waking birds. My eyes rested on the horizon, a black line of trees against a red glow. I had forgotten about natural color. I had even forgotten about daylight. It had been a year of black and silver and gray. I watched the dark veils lifting away. The clouds were more colors than I had ever imagined. The earth, so many different shades of green. I felt the vast expanse of prairie beneath my feet glide ponderously toward the sun. There was a pinpoint of fire, a hemisphere, an orange ball. At every instant the colors peaked, yet at every instant they grew more brilliant. A rooster actually crowed. I laughed at the sheer corniness of it. I watched until I could not look at the sun, and there was no longer any trace of rose in the sky. "And this happens every day out here," I said. And now my voice, a man's voice, did sound strange. It had been months since I had even talked to myself. I shivered and looked at the calculator. It was 5:05 and galloping. With my thumb I touched the off switch, the numbers that had been the terrible crux of my life for so long. My massive yoke, the numbers vanished. They didn't matter anymore. Then I whooped and screamed, I cavorted, I pranced. I dashed to the river and plunged in. I could swim as long as I wanted. The numbers didn't matter anymore. I dove, I splashed, I shouted. I ran back to the meadow. I looked around at all the colors again, and the sun had dried me. I was hungry. The house, as I approached it, seemed terribly unfamiliar. In my entire life, I had only spent 5 days at this house, and that was a year ago. I passed slowly through the mounting room. I wandered around the kitchen, I dimly remembered, and the events and details of the days I had spent here began to come back to me. I opened and slammed cupboard doors, examining in wonder the amazing variety of food on shelves and in the humming refrigerator, but I'd have to be careful what I ate for the first few days, or I'd make myself sick. A half cup of cornflakes would probably be safe, with a little milk, no fruit. I stared at the cereal box for a long time. The idiotically grinning boy in the rainbow-colored photograph couldn't feel half as good as I did. I took the first bite slowly. The tender, crisp texture, the rich tastes were poetry. "You can have this every day," I told myself in the grown-up tones I couldn't get used to. I whooped again. There was a creak of bed springs upstairs, then footsteps. Barry. A fierce pang shot through me. A blossoming of bad memories. I grunted and stood up, knocking over the chair. "Do you have to make so much damn noise, Harry? It's not even 6:30, shouted a petulant, childish voice. I picked up the chair and backed away from the table, suddenly remembering I was naked, fighting the impulse to run. Was I ready for this? I stopped beside the window and the sink facing the entrance to the hallway, from where Barry's voice was now coming. "I know you got up so early to keep an eye on me, so you'd know if I tried to sneak outside. You're terrified of what I might do, aren't you, Harry? Do you always have to be so predictable?" Barry said, and came through the door. He stopped. He was wearing the green running shorts I remembered from that day so long ago when Fred had died. His mouth was open, but whatever insult he was preparing ended in a guttural choke. He stared up at me, his sleepy eyes widening. "Huh?" he said in a startled voice. He was much as I remembered him, but the calmness had not deserted me. It was there to draw upon, waiting to support me like a comfortable chair. "Don't you know me, Barry?" I said, looking down into his eyes, beginning to smile. "Know you?" He was confused, and he wailed. "Harry! Harry, no!" He squeezed his eyes shut and shook his head violently. He opened them again and stared at me. "Harry!" he moaned. He had never, even in our closest days, exposed so much emotion to me, so much vulnerability. My heart opened up to him, and suddenly I needed him. I ran forward and hugged him. The top of his head came up to my ear. "Barry, don't. Barry, it's still me," I soothed, rocking him. He broke away roughly. His eyes were full of tears. "I don't believe..." But it is you! Oh my God! Red-faced, he ran for the stairs. I followed him. I heard his bedroom door slam as I reached the second floor. I passed the bathroom. I remembered that there was a full-length mirror inside the bathroom door. I went into the bathroom, closed the door, and looked at myself in the mirror for the first time in a year. A tall stranger looked back at me. His face was long, the chin and jawline sharp-edged. The cheeks had been round. He had cheekbones, emphasized by the dark shadow of a beard, though I thought I had shaved carefully that morning. Muscles jutted from his chest and rippled horizontally across his belly, so sharply etched they might have been outlined in black ink. I could see veins branching across his forearms and on the backs of his hands. And where had that nose come from? Maybe it was a little too long. I looked at his profile and decided I liked it fine. From this angle, I could see the dark, tightly woven braid that hung down his neck. It added a pleasing touch of femininity. He reminded me of the archetypical Indian brave. I peered into his eyes. The way they watched me also made me think of an Indian. The eyes were the most unfamiliar part of him, placid, steady, unguarded, with maybe just a hint of demonic around the edges. The Indian youth swung away. A blond, sulky boy stood in the doorway. He looked athletic as I remembered, but now, compared to the older boy in the mirror, his head seemed a little too large for his shoulders, his limbs even a trifle scrawny. How long were you in there? Barry said, in his high-pitched, still-changing voice. He seemed hesitant. From 1:30 to 4:26, with two 15-minute breaks. So that was... He bit his lip, trying to calculate, then he frowned. A lot of things were coming back to me, and I remembered that expression. It meant frustration. He was having trouble calculating. In a minute, he'd stamp his foot and demand the answer. But instead, he looked down at the floor and pouted, his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes darted up to my face, and then quickly away. He was shy. He was even a little afraid of me. He didn't dare get angry yet, or demand anything from me at all. A year, I told him. You were in there a year? He looked directly up at me now, bewildered. How could you stand it? I did it, that's all. It was good. Good? But that's crazy. How come you talk so funny, act so funny, he said. It was another old trick, avoiding the issue by going on the offensive. Your voice sounds so dead, kind of. Your face. You don't even make any expressions. I got out of the habit, I guess, not talking to anyone for a year. My calmness seemed to infuriate him, and now that the initial shock was over, his anger was getting the better of him timidly. His anger was getting the better of his timidity. Well, I never would have done that crazy thing, but you were so scared that you did it yourself because you believed me. Only I was lying. He threw the words at me like a taunt, a dare. Funny, isn't it? You went through that whole year for nothing. I watched him. No, I said at the beginning I went in because I was frightened, but for nothing? I laughed a little, just to give him some kind of expression. No, Barry. It was the most important thing I ever did. I wouldn't take back any of it. And if you made me do it, then all I can say is thanks. Thanks? You're thanking me for driving you to do that? Are you crazy? You were crazy when you went in, and you're crazier now. He glared at me, waiting for some kind of response. But I had nothing to say. If the way I felt now was crazy, then crazy was wonderful. I smiled. Is this the kind of expression you would like? I asked. He clenched his fists and howled. You're crazy, he said for the fourth time. Had he always had such a limited vocabulary? You don't act so holier than thou about, and don't act so holier than thou about it. You were afraid, that's all. So you ran away and hid out in there. And now you're trying to make it seem like it was something wonderful that you did, but you were really just too scared and weak to do anything else. You're wrong, Barry, I said. He was knocking the calmness right out from under me. You don't think it was scary what I did? You don't think it was hard? That isn't fair. You didn't do it. That isn't fair, he mimicked me just like in the old days. Don't talk to me like that, I shouted and stepped forward. Something changed in his face. His eyes wavered and slid away from me. His head bent to the side. He never would have done that in the old days. Was it because of what I had said, asserting myself as I had never done before? Or was it just because I was afraid I would hit him? Or was it just because he was afraid I would hit him? Oh, Barry, why are we doing this? I said. I did feel scared now, scared of what I might do if I lost my calmness and control. To be physically threatening was the last thing I had ever intended. I practiced my smile. It's great seeing you again, Barry. I mean it. I really missed you. Gently, I put my hand on his shoulder. I wasn't sure it was the right gesture, but I did want to touch him somehow, and I really was glad to see him, despite his bullying and the bad memories and fears it brought back. I loved him. I cared about him more than anyone else. Still, I might not have been quite as glad to see him if I had been 3 inches taller and a year older than he was. I caught a glimpse my face in the mirror. How smug I looked. I hastily corrected my expression. But you aren't even... Barry looked down at the large hand on his shoulder and then up into my face. Great seeing me again, huh? Well, seeing you isn't like seeing Harry again. Harry's gone. I'll never see him again. His voice teetered on the edge of hysteria. He squirmed away from my hand, as though he was still afraid I might hurt him. You took my brother away. I can't have him back. You killed him. It's just the same as if you killed him. Now I was confused. Barry wasn't just angry. He was grieving. He was acting like a bereaved person. Could I have been wrong about him? Maybe he hadn't wanted to get rid of me. Maybe he had never really hated being a twin after all. But wait a minute, I said. I thought you thought wrong, he screamed at me, tears in his eyes. The mirror shivered. Downstairs, dirty dishes clattered in the sink. Wow, I said. What a funny feeling, but it's kind of familiar, too. Barry seemed a lot more unnerved by the little tremor than I was. His face had gone dead white. You don't know what that was? It wasn't an earthquake? He shook his head at me. No. What is it, Barry? Tell me. The creature in the playhouse. It just came through. And that is the end of chapter 20.